Okay, do we want to look at these other factors here?
Yes. Turn off downside deviation for a moment, and then turn on 3-year average annualized standard deviation, and then turn on the 3-year return, and go ahead and increase the weight on 5-year and decrease the weight on 3 return. Now, yeah. One more click on 3. There you go. Now make 1, 3, and 5 match that. That's not exactly the default screen, but it's close. You're not matching it yet, Jax. Oh, there you go. So this is the default screen that shows up with the heaviest weights on 5-year average annual return and 5-year average annual standard deviation. And so what you're seeing here, this gives you the default is an equal weighting between the return factors and the risk factors. And you can see, depending on the time frame, what your loss exposure for any of these periods was been in a normal market, because the average annual standard deviation is 68% of the time. This will be the upside and downside variance in the average annual return. So this is the way it starts. And Jack, now do one thing, and that is slide the return. This is a large blend asset class. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a very conservative weighting. It shows no bias toward return, and that's done intentionally, and no bias toward risk. But what we see in practice is, because it's an equity class, most users tend to put more weight on return. So, Jack, let's just take a look at the code number for manager number 1, which is 65984, and this will be also for the choice down here, 190. Slide the green button over to the right 2 notches and get us up to 60%. Now notice that changed the choice. The choice is the easier one than number 1. So it changed the choice, move it back to 50-50, and it raised it by 19 positions in rank. If you go over one more, it may come up a little bit higher. Nope, go to 70%. There you go. And so you can do these tests, these what-if tests, and watch the managers change, watch the rankings change. You can also do it the other way around, go to 70% on the risk. Now notice that the choice that was started with the evenly weighted screen at 190 is now 244. So obviously the choice down here in the bottom has a higher standard deviation, higher volatility than some of the top scoring ones with. And if you notice this, over the last 3 years and 5 years, the top scoring one, which was a serious overperformer in return, really was less volatile than the choice down here at 244. In other words, you can see what this tool lets you do is you can see the funds that have return premiums with no equivalent risk premium. And in fact, if you pick number 1, not only would you get significantly better returns, you would marginally lower your risk profile in your portfolio.
So over here on risk, this number is lower, which is better.
Right.
I'm understanding. And then in returns, if the number's higher, it's better.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So this one, as we've changed these weightings, this 65984 has been stayed at number one the entire time.
Well, and that's because that was so strong,
Mhm.
and the return side and its volatility was essentially less than the benchmark index at 243 or your choice. And
Mhm.
if you look down along the lines, you can see that there are lower volatilities, but with significantly less return.
Mm.
So there are high scoring ones, but they're nowhere near. This is really a strong performing outlier, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking to optimize the returns with hopefully little or no additional risk other than what's inherent in the class.
So if this is the S&P 500 fund that I'm in,
Now that was
and
the Russell 1000, remember, that you picked.
Yeah, okay. So this is the Russell 1000 that I picked, and this is what the performance has been. And now that we've done this analysis here, I feel like I need to get in my savings into this manager here because of how much better it's doing and has been doing for
Well,
5 years.
it's clearly the top ranked choice. Now, if you were really strongly um, risk averse, look at number two. And if you look at number two, you can see that the volatility is a good bit less. Okay. Number three is even less over 3 and 5 years. And the performance of number two is still significantly better than 244. Number three, which is even lower volatility over 3 and 5, now is not overperforming on the return side. But that's only because we put those are ranking so high only because we put so much weight on the volatility, the risk factors.
Oh,
So,
yes, up
so
here
if you
at the top.
slid that slide back, you're going to see higher volatilities,
Mhm.
um, but you're going to see a lot higher returns as well.
Right. So this particular Russell 1000 choice, which is in the large cap class, I want to have more emphasis on returns. So I'm weighting it over here, but still, this manager is still at the top.
Right.
So I can see.
Now,
All right.
70% is a lot of weight to put on it. That indicates if you're more aggressive, you can put more weight on return. If you're less aggressive, you'll put less weight on return and more on risk. But it's completely within your control. And every time you slide that bar, you're doing another what if experiment. What if I put this much weight on it? What if I put that? And notice the names and numbers change immediately. There's no spinning circles. There's nothing to get you bored waiting. It's immediate gratification. You're going to get immediate answer to all your queries.